Hey Marvin, you in there? I keep talking about how the Wonder Dog killed Marvin, so we need to go into more details on Wendy, Marvin, and the Wonder Dog. We're gonna be talking about the original sidekicks from the Super Friends, the ones who preceded the Wonder Twins. Did they get a fair shake, or were people too hard on them? Were they annoying sidekicks who should never have been expanded upon? Do you not even know who they are? We're gonna track their evolution through time, and you can tell me what you think of them as we follow the course of Wendy, Marvin, and the Wonder Dog. They've been friends, they've been siblings, they've been mauled. Wendy somehow had part of her character become part of Felicity Smoke. It's been an interesting time. I'm Sash and this is Casually Comics. And once more we're going way back to the era of 70s Saturday morning cartoons. Because we can in Super Friends time. Unlike when we talked about the Wonder Twins, there's less chart from the show itself. Since for Wendy, Marvin, and the Wonder Dog, they were only part of the first series, which ran from 1973 to 1974, and was only 16 episodes, but they were rerun quite a bit. And when the show came back after a 3-year hiatus, it was now the all-new Super Friends hour. The Super Friends predominantly featured Superman, Batman and Robin, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman. However, this was the era where many series felt they needed kid sidekicks for the youth to relate to, more than the youth, younger than the youth, the kids. Want to sell that merch? This served a dual function, not just the relatability, but the fact that the cartoon was aimed at a younger audience than the comic books themselves. This being the DC comics, as the Super Friends comic wouldn't start until 1976. The commonly held belief was that kids needed to see other kids in order to be able to relate to what was going on. I guess Robin didn't count. He wasn't good enough. He could do too many things. They needed normal kids. The Sidekicks first appeared in the segment entitled The Power Pirate, the very first episode.
We've got to help Superman, even if we all go down together.
You're right, Wonder Woman.
Okay, let's go.
So it's all of you now, huh? You'll have to catch me first.
Hence, Wendy, Marvin, and the Wonder Dog were a part of the show from the beginning. No last names. They weren't given an expanded backstory until Super Friends #1 in 1976. The League was meant to be training them, so they were junior superheroes in training. Marvin also seemed to have powers in the first episode, but they were never seen again. However, for many fans, they did not land, and the fact that they didn't have powers made them stand out in a jarring way. It made them feel as if they didn't really belong there, and as if the heroes were always having to take time out to go save them. Or also like they were undermining the heroes when they would be the ones to solve the mystery or figure everything out. They felt for many like what they were, inserts trying to relate to them. Which is not to say that they weren't without fans, because there are some who remember them fondly and some who even say that they like them more than the Wonder Twins. But on the whole, they seem to have received a more negative reaction. For some, it felt as though they were changing the tone of the show, making it feel more Scooby-Doo-ish.
Come on, Wonder Dog. See if you can pick up their scent.
Hanna-Barbera was well known for reusing tropes and character archetypes that worked, and Wendy, Marvin, and the Wonder Dog were taking clear cues from Scooby-Doo, which ended up making the denouement of certain episodes feel like they'd slipped into a different genre.
You've ruined everything. My country will starve.
But sir, I promised you that the Super Friends help people. We don't harm them.
You've already harmed them.
Aw man, and they would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for Wendy, Marvin, and the Wonder Dog. And the Justice League, I guess. That coupled with the fact that on the show they were just there, for some aided with the disconnect. When E. Nelson Bridwell began writing the Super Friends comic, he would go out of his way to attempt to tie these characters into the DC lore and justify their presence, as well as give them last names, huzzah! The cover for issue 1 is a fun one, all the characters bursting out of the TV. The art in this issue is by Rick Estrada, inks by Joe Orlando and Vince Colletta, so you know it got done on time, but at what cost? Colors by Jerry Serb. The first time we see them in this comic, they're doing some training with Robin, trapeze drills, when Marvin suddenly plummets. Donkers, almost forgot the net was there. Thanks, not Shaggy. Also, Robin needs to go cry now. Interestingly enough, the explanation for the characters' backstories doesn't appear on panel, but instead on the last page, which would later become the letters column. As there was no letters column yet, as this was the first issue, Bridwell instead used this space to explain his canon. He was trying to rationalize what was so special about Wendy and Marvin, why they deserve to be there. I feel like at some point in this, I'm just gonna call him Martin, and like it's gonna happen. I'm gonna look back to the video some point during editing. You won't know because I'll fix it, but I'll probably have said Martin at least once. The explanations that Bridwell gives are fascinating. Prepare for dramatic reading. The first script sent to us made Wendy Bruce Wayne's niece, and absurdly had her openly referring to the caped crime fighter as Uncle Bruce, while he introduced her to people who were not supposed to know the Batman's identity as my niece. As far as the TV scripts go, Wendy has no last name, nor does Marvin. The kids are not related, but are only referred to as friends. I therefore set out to figure out their full names and origins. Wendy Harris, I decided, was the young lady's full name. She is the niece not of the Batman, but of a detective named Harvey Harris. This man gave young Bruce Wayne his first crack at real detecting when Bruce was in his teens. As you probably know, Bruce's parents were killed by a criminal when he was no, you don't say. What? Bruce Wayne is Batman? Readers of DC Mags may recall another Wendy Harris on the parallel world of Earth 2, where the Justice Society members live. She is now married to Rex Tyler, the Hourman. Since many people on Earth 2 are older than their Earth 1 doubles, perhaps this is the Earth 2 version of our Wendy. This is top tier nerdage, and I love it. Marvin, I decided, is Marvin White, no relation to Perry White. His father is Daniel White, inventor, and his mother is the former Diana Prince. Hold it, you say? Isn't Diana Prince Wonder Woman? Well, not quite. When Wonder Woman first came to America, she had no secret identity. Then she met a young nurse who was her exact double. This was the real Diana Prince. Miss Prince was sad because her fiance Dan was going to South America, but hadn't enough money for her to go along. The amazing Amazon had recently made some money doing her bullets and bracelets bit on stage, so she bought the other Diana's credentials. Ever since then, Diana White has known Wonder Woman's secret, though she has told no one. So essentially, nepotism. Good old-fashioned nepotism. Despite issue 1 explaining their backstories, they had actually first appeared in DC Comics in limited collector's edition number C41 in 1976, in an unnamed segment later entitled Wendy and Marvin Meet the JLA, this also written by Bridwell. Here they're utilized as a framing device. Robin brings them to the Hall of Justice to meet the entire League, and then they go and they ask various questions, and so some canonical things are answered, and then they can segue into the various stories, which are reprints of earlier Justice League stories. As for the Super Friends comic itself, while still being aimed at a younger demographic, the adventures had a bit more weight to them, and the characters did a bit more in the comics than they did on the show. They were a bit more competent there. However, the decision had already been made to replace them. This with characters leaning more into popular tropes of the time, and with powers. So by issue 7, the original sidekicks were written out during a 3-part arc that introduced the Wonder Twins, Zan and Jayna. The cover of issue 7 features them being shoved aside, and as some pointed out in the Wonder Twins video, it does very much look like Zan is grabbing Marvin by the crotch. The explanation given on panel for where the first sidekicks went was that they were moving on to higher education, that they had graduated. They were superheroes now. Translation, get out. As far as I'm concerned, you're ready to start being superheroes. Not just yet, Wonder Woman. We have college first. I've had scholarship offers from Ivy Raleigh and Gotham. And Wonder Woman got me admitted to the Amazon College on Paradise Island. Couldn't get it on your own, huh? I see how it is. Pay to play. On the TV series, there would be no explanation, they would just be gone. However, in the Super Friends comic, they would return in issue 26, when the League are being impersonated by a group of villains who are trying to use Zan and Jayna to determine the League members' true identities. Zan and Jayna enlist the help of Wendy and Marvin to pose as their civilian identities to throw them off. So Wendy and Marvin pretend to be Johan and Johanna, or John and Joanna, because they Americanized their names. There's so many layers to the Wonder Twins civilian identity. Wendy in a blonde wig, wig life! They don't do much in this issue, but it is nice to see them again. It feels like an acknowledgement that they were there and that they've moved on to do other things. It's a positive cameo. They are even favorably mentioned by some in the letters column of issue 31, including a letter which I think is by a frequent commenter on this channel. I'm gonna read some of it. Now for artwork. For a change, all we saw on the cover were villains and the Wonder Twins, and despite my spotting the crucial clue, it was the best cover to date. But Miss Fradden didn't stop there. Top that, she did much better with Wendy and Marvin. She changed them from dopey looking kids to good looking teens. It goes on, but then I saw the name, Art Westfeld. Did you write this letter, Art? If you're watching, I need to know. After the end of the Super Friends era, these characters would disappear for quite some time. They had already essentially disappeared at that point. Although there is a random panel in Wonder Woman 186 from 2002 wherein a character who looks exactly like Wendy is featured, which could just be a nod to how it was originally said that she had left for Paradise Island to go to school, which was now renamed Themyscira. However, versions of Wendy and Marvin would re-enter the DC Comics universe, or really enter it for the first time, since the Super Friends is technically on another Earth. Yes, I care about canon. I heart canon. Heart. They would re-enter post-Infinite Crisis in 2006 in Teen Titans 34, written by Jeff Johns. In this iteration, they borrow one element from the Wonder Twins in that they are twins. They are Wendy and Marvin, surname at first not given, so at first they're identified in some places on wikis and stuff as White, but then later on in Batgirl, Wendy's gonna be called Wendy Harris. So, which do you want? Pick. It doesn't end up really making a difference. They are now possessing genius level intellects. In fact, they're said to have a 10th level intellect, which is just a couple below Brainiac 5. They have graduated from MIT by age 16. They are first seen in issue 34 repairing Cyborg. You get a glimpse of their clothes, which is reminiscent of their outfits from their Super Friends days. They are caretakers of Titan's Tower, and they're meant to add a little bit of levity because this era of Teen Titans had so much edge. Emergency shutdown. I thought you put it in. I thought you did. They also very awkwardly info dump their backstory. Just, hi, we're genius twins, we watched the tower, deal with it. For the most part, the twins don't do too much. They pop up to facilitate plot discoveries, they find things or give important items to characters in a less obtrusive version of what they did in the Super Friends series. There would often be gaps of months between their appearances. So at first I felt like they would just be cameo characters fleshing out the universe, but they would begin to have panels that lent themselves to the idea that once more they weren't really fitting in. I swear, Wendy, I'm gonna lose my mind. We've become custodians. I've designed artificial intelligences from scratch, and now janitors. Oi, cleaning is part of caretaking. You take that elitist sass and put it back in your mouth. Tied up by supervillains, always tied up by supervillains. I have a doctorate. I'm a teenager with a doctorate. Okay, then go do something with it. Stop hanging out in Teen Titans Tower with the Titans. The significant arc they undergo in this era is a dark one, starting in issue 62, written by Sean McKeever, with the header, Who is Wonder Dog? This issue opens with the twins, particularly Wendy, talking about how she doesn't really like being there at the tower anymore. How there's been so much death, and how maybe they could do a lot more good somewhere else with their genius level intellects and doctorates. Doctorate in what? You can get a doctorate in a lot of things. Doctorate in basket weaving. The team doesn't need your baskets, Wendy. How much longer are we going to be underappreciated and underutilized? How many more times are we going to let ourselves be tied up and knocked around? And then they find the Wonder Dog. They bring the dog in and try to care for him. They even give the dog his signature green cape, since they name him Wonder Dog, which is a superhero name. It's 2008. All of us is too happy. You know that it can only go wrong. It can't just be, wow, they found a dog, that's nice. Later that same issue, the dog is revealed to be a demon. It brutally mauls Marvin to death and chases Wendy through the tower as she frantically tries to escape. It's a lengthy sequence. You just see her fleeing in terror from her brother's corpse. After attacking her as well, the dog returns to its owner, King Lycus. Wendy is left in a coma and it is firmly established that the villain, the Calculator, is their father, who vows revenge against the Titans for allowing this to happen to his children. This was one of the things that actually was not the Titans' fault. Not that that matters to the Calculator. Calculator eventually kidnaps Kid Eternity and forces him to use his summoning powers to manifest his son over and over again, before eventually beating him to death because he doesn't get the results he wants. He later refocuses his efforts on just trying to awaken and cure Wendy, which takes us away from the Teen Titans and over to Batgirl Oracle on a stop before we get to Batgirl itself, the era with Stephanie Brown. Oracle the Cure is a series by Kevin Van Hook. The Cure in the title is referring to Calculator's quest to use the anti-life equation to cure Wendy. Using the anti-life equation for things, bad idea. People's heads explode in this, a la scanners. He's got to test on other people before he can use it on Wendy. Because she's important. Other people's heads can explode. But before he can use this cure on Wendy, he's stopped by Barbara and Wendy wakes up on her own. And a heartbreaking scene, even though yes, he had killed people in this arc, he's arrested in front of his just awakened daughter, who is only then realizing she can't feel her legs. Daddy, I can't feel my legs. I can't feel them, Daddy! No, you can't do this! Fun! Over in Batgirl #1, where her name is now Wendy Harris officially. Why? I don't know, someone decided that it was actually important to call them by a last name. This is the series written by Brian Hugh Miller. Her arc in Batgirl will be coming to terms with her paralysis with the help of Barbara Gordon, and having to deal with her now completely insane father, who is wandering around with Kid Eternity's corpse stuck in Marvin's form while he tries to kill Barbara, and Loki starts a zombie tech apocalypse. Years before deceased, he was ahead of his time. Wendy has to decide her own future, and ultimately decides to be part of Team Batgirl as proxy, taking up an Oracle-like tech position. But then the universe rebooted with the New 52, so bye Wendy, Marvin, and the evil Wonder Dog. Time of recording, that's how it's going for them comics-wise, unless I missed something, which I'm sure you'll let me know. As brutal of a comment as that would be, it cannot be more brutal than their comic book return. Well, first appears to be a decent callback. There isn't really anything to do with them, and they fall victim to side character brutality. If one was a fan of Wendy and Marvin, this was probably a pretty difficult arc. When they first return, it feels like a reference, but it feels like the later author hated them. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but that's how it comes across. Maybe they just really like to be dark and hardcore because you can. Marvin also managed to get depicted as a washed-up has-been in Kingdom Come and gets punched on panel by Atom Smasher. It's just not a good time to be Marvin. There seems to be more Marvin hate than Wendy hate. Was it the cape? Was it because he didn't have Wendy's appeal? It is a bit of a shame that all the work done with Wendy didn't go anywhere, even though some just felt that she was now Oracle Light, so they don't mind too much. But these characters would fare better once they return to their roots. Animation. Joke on the Adult Swim cartoon The New Adventures of the Wonder Twins aside.
Wendy and my band just got signed with a major label. Huh? You should check out our website.
A much more friendly type of update was given to them in the TV series Young Justice. Here they're presented as students going to Happy Harbor High who befriend Megan and Connor. They're just nice students.
Hi, I'm Wendy. I was new last year, so I know how hard it is to fit in. but you look like instant Bumblebee material to me.
They're more in the background than anything for most of it, but for those familiar with them, you get to see them around, not being mauled by the Wonder Dog. If one was familiar with the Super Friends, their designs are clearly harkening back to their 70s days. They are once more now friends and not twins. They become recurring faces that make the universe feel more coherent, as if there are through lines and threads that connect things. Wendy eventually becomes a good friend to Connor, being the only person to remember his birthday post-breakup with Megan.
You know me pretty well.
So, any parties this year?
No. This year, you're the only one who remembered.
Megan actually assumes they're dating when she wants to get back together with Connor, and so is thrilled to learn they're not. He's just helping her with her romance with Marvin. Oh. They're together now. Yay? Question mark? So here they're utilized as what has become largely a lost art. Just regularly civilian recurring supporting characters. They went to the same school. They stayed friends. Nothing complicated. Easy peasy, no demon dogs. Maybe you love the demon dog. If you did, let me know. Did you love seeing Marvin just strewn out, guts everywhere on panel? There wasn't that much guts. Some guts. Blood, a little bit of blood. Elements of the end of Wendy's comic plot arc are used on Arrow. They're given to Felicity Smoke. Many misattribute these characteristics to Oracle because of the wheelchair, but Felicity is also Calculator's daughter, which puts her more in line with Wendy than Barbara. Now these characters still pop up here and there. I heard a rumor that they were or were going to be on Jellystone and HBO Max. Have you seen them? I haven't watched a lot of Jellystone. Sometimes people think about using them on shows when the shows get canceled after the first season, now they're powerless. But on the whole, Marvin, Wendy, and the Wonder Dog seem to have left less of an impression than their replacements, the Wonder Twins. Although they did have a much more intense comeback. To have them so horribly mutilated and injured on panel, and to have it happen by their former beloved pet, the Wonder Dog. It's a lot of a lot. It's so extra. Why not just let them fade into obscurity like so many characters had before and would after? The civilian sidekick is a hard one to integrate in a way that works. Perhaps it's a concept that works better more on a one-to-one basis than on a civilian character to team basis. Looking at you, Snapper Car. On the whole, it's a concept that's best used sparingly, lest the character become unwelcome, or fall prey to the inevitable, nothing's happening with a character. What if we kidnap or hurt one of their loved ones? Sue Dibney, identity crisis. Watch out, B, C, and D list characters. Characters like this can, however, have a place, and if well implemented, not only ground the hero, but provide an alternate perspective and a place for those more slice-of-life elements or concerns to nicely slot themselves. They can provide a nice break or give some breathing room. It's just a question of utilizing them the correct amount, and also of allowing them to be what they are without feeling the need to enhance them or pump them up in some way. Are Wendy and Marvin characters you'd want to see reintegrated into DC Comics again? Like fully and out there and seeing them in your face? Or do you think little nods and brief appearances are best? Were you fans of them? Did you like them more than the Wonder Twins? Were you fans of their Teen Titans era? Do you support their Young Justice romance? Or do you like some platonic Wendy and Marvin? Tell me things down below, and while you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking this time today to spend discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.